What if events had unfolded differently in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2002? What if Peter Parker and Harry Osborn got bit by the spider? Welcome back, my fellow watchers of the multiverse, to part 2 of this incredible, brand new, unique series on the channel, where we're going to be looking at two heroes in the mix of things in Spider-Man 2002. Now, I do want to say thank you so much for the support on part 1, because there was a lot of people that were theorizing on what would happen next with Harry and Peter becoming Spider-Man. And I think it was very interesting because I had to take a step back and really look at the comments and see, where this story would go for part 2, as well as all the way to the ending, which is going to be, coming fast on the channel. But again, thank you so much for the support on this series. It's going to continue on the channel. And I do want to say we're going to be doing a lot more. We're going to be remastering a couple more series and doing some brand new franchises as well. We're going to be experimenting with different stories. But that being said, my fellow watchers, let's continue manipulating the multiverse and see what would have happened in part 2 of What If Peter Parker and Harry Osborn got bit by the spider. After Norman had become the Green Goblin, he went on a mad spree. The Green Goblin had heard that the General was at Quest Aerospace, the facility, as they were conducting their experiment. With a cackle, the Green Goblin marched onto a highly advanced technological suit. Within moments, the Green Goblin was donning the suit. The Green Goblin then jumped on the suit's glider and took off, laughing manically. That night, the Green Goblin destroyed the whole Quest Aerospace facility and killed most of them. When he woke up in the morning, Norman had no recollection of the past events, but what he saw in the news, he screamed. After the wrestling match, Harry and Peter's bond had grown very strong. They went through the city, saving citizens and stopping the bad men. They were on top of the world, and nothing could stop them. After graduation, their bond grew very strong, and they had enough time to spare. Harry did not need a job yet, as he had his allowance to rely on, but Norman still tried in giving him a position at the company. Harry had also used his allowance to buy the necessary things needed for both of them, and Peter went to work on their suits. Harry also supplied Peter with gadgets from the Oscorp facility. Anything that Peter needed, Harry brought it, and within a few days, they had their very own Spider-Man suits. Peter had also been able to create a communication device in their suits, so that as long as they were in the same city, they would be able to communicate with one another. Harry had stated that he wanted them to be distinguished from each other, and as such, Peter used a silver thread to make the web designs for Harry, while he used plain black for his. This caused the media to start calling Harry the Silver Spider, while Peter remained plain old Spider-Man, but he was not complaining. Everything was going alright. Nobody hated them except the villains and the occasional cops. Nobody except the owner of the Daily Bugle, who saw them as the main villains. Harry was worried about the criticism, but Peter found it amusing. Peter then decided that in order for him to get money, he had to work for the Daily Bugle. Peter started working as a photographer for the Bugle, and he took pictures of Spider-Man. That is him and Harry. Peter sold the pictures to get money in order to impress Mary Jane. Another issue Harry and Peter were facing was that the work was too easy because there was not enough competition for them. When they first heard about the Green Goblin, they were very excited that at last they had gotten a prominent villain, but after the aerospace incident, the Green Goblin had been awful quiet. Harry and Peter had concluded too soon. The next day, the Green Goblin struck, and they wished that they had not asked for it. After the bombings of Quest Aerospace's facility, the Green Goblin had remained dormant, and Norman was thinking that the whole event was just a hallucination. that he was not truly the monster he thought he was. Norman was wrong. The Green Goblin was just lying in wait for something to trigger him, and it came soon. Norman got the news that the board members of Oscorp facility wanted out of him from the position of the CEO. Immediately, Norman heard this news. He was greatly angered, and the Green Goblin resurfaced. He would kill and destroy them all and retain his position. The Green Goblin quickly threw his table at the wall, leaving a dent there, as he swore vengeance on the board members of Oscorp. After he had built the company from scratch, they wanted to remove him from his company. The Green Goblin decided that instead of them removing him from office, he will remove them from this world. And with that, the Green Goblin started laughing manically. Harry had taken a liking to MJ. Peter knew that there was only one thing that was separating him from being like Harry, and that was money. Harry had invited MJ for a special charity function, and Peter did not know what to make of it. The worst was when J. Jonah Jameson ordered him to go to the event as a photographer. Parker just knew that he had to get his wits, and fast, if he wanted Mary Jane. The expo event was very nice, and at the beginning, but for Peter, it was hell. Peter had to stand and take pictures of Harry and Mary Jane, and it broke his heart each time. What made it worse was that Mary Jane actually looked happy. Peter almost quit his job right then and there, but he decided that it would be irrational. To get some redemption, Peter started cropping the pictures to only get Mary Jane. All was going well until Green Goblin attacked. Peter and Harry could not believe their eyes, as they had wanted to combat him. There was, however, a problem. Harry could not change, because he was with Mary Jane. Peter quickly took care of the situation, as he slipped away and changed first. When Peter changed, he caused enough distraction and Harry rapidly slipped away and changed too. Within moments, the two Spider-Men were ready to combat Green Goblin. There was, however, a problem. Green Goblin had set off multiple pumpkin bombs, and they were destroying the buildings and endangering the lives of civilians. Harry wanted to combat the Green Goblin, so he immediately told Peter that he should save Mary Jane and the civilians while he took care of the villain. The Green Goblin was really taking his time and relishing his destruction as he moved with ease. He threw pumpkin bombs wherever he went, and it wreaked havoc as chunks of the building started collapsing on the civilians. Casually, Green Goblin saw that people were not getting squashed as expected because Spider-Man was saving them. This seemed to interest the Green Goblin, and this led him to be distracted. Within seconds, there was a flash of gray and silver, and he was knocked off his glider by Harry, who was now donning his Spider-Man suit. Green Goblin crashed into a pillar, which subsequently collapsed on him. When he got up, he saw Spider-Man swinging directly to him. In order to deliver another blow, the Green Goblin smiled as he patiently waited for Spider-Man. This seemed to freak Harry out, but he guessed that the Green Goblin was just paralyzed with fear. Harry did not know that the glider was already at top speed behind the Green Goblin's back. At the last second, the Green Goblin caused the glider to protrude its blade as he quickly jumped out of the way. This left Harry swinging to meet the glider's blade at full speed. Harry's spider sense went haywire, and he knew that his life would be over within seconds if he did not act fast. Based on the pure reflexes, Harry twisted out of the way as the glider rushed at him. Harry managed to avoid being skewed to death, but it was not without some consequences, as the glider cut a final line on Harry's abdomen. It was superficial, but Harry still bled. At that point, Harry felt fear like he had not felt before. Suddenly, the idea of being a superhero did not amuse him anymore. Green Goblin just laughed and jumped on his glider. As Harry stood up staggering, Green Goblin felt furious as Harry had distracted him enough for Peter to manage and save most of the board members and the civilians. Green Goblin then decided to take his anger out on Harry, but when he turned his eyes to find him, he discovered that he had disappeared. Suddenly, Peter swung out of nowhere and delivered a solid punch to the Green Goblin. This made his glider spin out of control. The Green Goblin was only able to get back in control of his glider several feet from Peter, and just in time as he was about to hit through the side of the expo event building. As Green Goblin was ready to come back, and for his retaliation, he saw that Silver Spider, even though he was staggering, had joined forces with Spider-Man. The scene was so funny, and Green Goblin could not help but cackle manically. Green Goblin laughed as he analyzed the situation. He decided that Spider-Man was impressive after all, and it would do more harm than good if they were enemies. The Green Goblin then decided that he would offer an olive branch to Silver Spider to join forces with him. The Green Goblin knew that it would be near impossible to take them all alone, so he decided that it would be wise to split them up. Silver Spider seemed like the weaker link, and Green Goblin was sure that he would exploit him. After concluding on what to do, the Green Goblin took off cackling into the night, leaving two not-so-confident Spider-Men in the ruins. Location: top of a skyscraper. Time: 12:05 p.m. Harry would be lying if he said he was not traumatized by the event. Even though Peter did not want to say it, he felt traumatized because he had a close call with saving Mary Jane. After that, he had also failed to save two members of the board of Osborn. This was the first time that Peter had suffered loss, and even witnessed death since he started his Spider-Man role. There was this guilty feeling that was upon him, and he hated it. Peter felt like he had failed the world. Harry, on the other hand, was still in utter shock that he had narrowly escaped death. After getting his powers, Harry almost felt invincible, but the Green Goblin had thrown that ideology out of the window. Peter then handed Harry a new suit that he made, as the other ones had been destroyed in the fight. Harry quickly put on the suit and told Peter that he had to clear his head. Peter tried to call him out, but Harry just jumped off the building. In midair, Harry shot out a web from his wrist, and it caught onto a building. Harry then used his momentum to swing to another building, and then he shot another web and repeated the procedure multiple times. Peter could not help but smile, as he remembered how they had multiple close calls during their practice of how to swing. After a few attempts, they had all become natural. All it took was a leap of faith. Peter just sincerely hoped that Harry would be okay. Speaking of a leap of faith, I have to do something, Peter said, as he had been thinking about walking up to Mary Jane. He just hoped that it would work out fine. Burning Story Building, 1:06 p.m. Harry was swinging through the city when he saw a fire breaking out. Harry was still scared about losing his life, but he decided that he could not just let innocent civilians die. Harry braced himself as he entered into the building, with cheers from the crowd below. Harry started saving people stuck in the building, until a little girl remained. The house was going to collapse soon, and for some reason, Peter was not getting Harry's call for help. Harry immediately took a deep breath of fresh air before he went back into the building. He had to save the girl. He could not let her die. The Green Goblin saw that his plan was going well. He was also pleased as the other Spider-Man was not around. Now, he had Silver Spider all to himself. Immediately, Silver Spider saved the girl. The Green Goblin swooped in and threw him into the building. A surprised Harry, who was still very short of air, could do very little to defend himself in the smoke-filled house. Green Goblin had a field day in beating him up as he came down from his glider. After a while, the Green Goblin decided that it would be a waste to kill the Silver Spider. Very quickly, the Green Goblin picked up Harry and jumped on his glider as he flew out of the building. Green Goblin disposed of him on the roof of another building and watched him as he gasped for air. After waiting for some time, the Green Goblin then proceeded to make his offer. He told Silver Spider that separately they were very weak. He told him that they would conquer the city together and then the world. Green Goblin's offer to Harry was for him to ditch Peter and join forces with him. Harry could not say that he was not tempted, but when he remembered that Green Goblin had killed innocent people, he was quickly infuriated at himself for even thinking about the idea. What sort of man sets a building on fire, endangering the lives of multiple people, just to get someone's attention? Harry asked himself as he realized how demented of a person the Green Goblin was. My answer is no, and it would remain no forever, Harry shouted at Green Goblin. Green Goblin just laughed at his outbursts, and then told Harry that if he was not with him, he was against him. The statement sent chills down the spine. And how is your wound healing up? Green Goblin said mockingly to Harry, as he zoomed off on his glider as he cackled. That night, Harry had recurring nightmares, and they contained the maniacal laugh of the Green Goblin. Location: Peter's apartment. Time: 8:37 p.m. Peter was beating himself up for not being around when Harry needed him. Harry had told him about what transpired, and it was scary to Peter that he would have lost his best friend. Peter had arranged a date between him and Mary Jane Watson, but it was done behind Harry's back. It was nothing fancy, as it was just an average restaurant. Peter had deliberately disconnected his communication device, as he did not want to be distracted. Anytime Peter wanted to focus on his life, the universe had a way of bringing trouble and emergencies around him. When Peter was still living with Aunt May and Uncle Ben, he was always harassed with compliments of him never being around and being too shabble and being too lazy and late for everything. This was one of the reasons why Harry had offered his apartment to Peter. Harry had gotten a new apartment as a gift for his graduation. Peter had been given money to rent his own since he did not want to share with Harry. Peter smiled as he remembered how Harry had forcefully given him the money because he did not want to receive it. Peter then decided that he would distance himself from Mary Jane, as it would not bear it if something happened to any of his loved ones, because he was just having fun. As Peter was wallowing in self-guilt, he received a phone call from Aunt May. It had been quite long since Peter saw them, and it was always nice to talk to her. Aunt May quickly informed Peter that they were having a family dinner tomorrow, and they wanted him over. This quickly lifted Peter's spirits, as he decided that a private time with his family was all he needed to get rid of his guilt. However, Peter was wrong about one thing. It was not a private family dinner. Aunt May had invited Harry, Mary Jane, and Norman over too. Peter was very surprised when he saw them. Peter was drinking his juice and chatting with Norman and Uncle Ben about politics when Mary Jane walked in. This caused Peter to spill his drink on Harry's shirt. This ruined Harry's shirt, and he immediately pulled it off, as Aunt May said that she still had some of Peter's old shirts in his spare room. Immediately, Harry pulled off his shirt. Norman saw the scars that his glider had left on Silver Spider. The Green Goblin immediately came alive. Norman immediately asked Harry where he got the scar. Harry fidgeted and started acting nervously. It was Peter who came to his aid and said that it was a house accident. Norman just said okay, as he quickly deduced that it meant that Peter was the other Spider-Man. He quickly came to this conclusion because of the way Peter had rushed to the defense of Harry, and it was very logical as they were still very close and respective of the distance. Norman quickly excused himself and left the house, as he told them that he had work to do. Immediately, Norman got to his car. He screamed in agony as the information that was going through his head was unbelievable. All this time, he had been fighting his son and his friend without knowing. The Green Goblin cackled at the thought, and that would have almost killed his son. Green Goblin started thinking about the next possible step, as he had already asked Harry to join him to no avail. An idea immediately came to his head, and he smiled as it pleased him. The Green Goblin decided that he had to use someone whom Peter and Harry mutually loved. With the person in his custody, he could get them to see reason and join him. Immediately, the Green Goblin thought of whom to use. His mind fell on Mary Jane Watson. Norman was not blind. He saw the way that Peter and Harry looked at Mary Jane. He decided that he would kidnap her and use her as leverage to get them to succumb. The Queen's Island Bridge. Time, 5:04 p.m. Peter and Harry could not believe the news. Mary Jane had been kidnapped by the Green Goblin. The Goblin had contacted them after the kidnap and informed them to come over to the Queensboro Bridge. Harry and Peter immediately deduced that it meant that the Green Goblin knew their identities, but they had no time to sit down and plan. They immediately donned on their suits and swung into action. They found Green Goblin at the bridge, but it was a very scary sight as he held Mary Jane by the neck. He told them that he would kill her because they needed their eyes to be opened. "You forced my hands," Green Goblin told them, as he let her fall. Simultaneously, he also threw pumpkin bombs to the civilians below and to the children in the tram car. Harry and Peter did not have enough time to think, but once they looked at each other, they knew the plan. Harry would save Mary Jane, while Peter took care of the bombs. Harry began his swinging, and he was lucky enough to catch Mary Jane before she fell to her demise. Peter, on the other hand, shot webs from his wrists, and it cut onto the pumpkin bombs. Peter then swung the bombs at Green Goblin, who was not even expecting such a stunt. The Green Goblin was blasted away. Peter and Harry immediately went to finish him off as he was blasted into an abandoned building. As they approached, they went into the warehouse. Peter couldn't believe it. They looked around, and they couldn't find the Green Goblin. Peter asked Harry, "Where do you think he is?" And Harry replied, "I'm not sure, Pete." The two looked around, and they were approaching. They could see the Green Goblin in the distance. He was broken and beaten, but that didn't matter. They had Mary Jane, and they wanted to finish him, so the two began to fight. Peter used his webs, while Harry was beating the living crap out of him. Peter and Harry began exchanging blows to the Goblin, where the Goblin couldn't keep up. Harry, on the other hand, did a 360 spinning kick to the Green Goblin's leg, while Spider-Man used his webs to pull him forward and punched him in the face. The Green Goblin was blasted away, and the Green Goblin then removed his helmet, and they were speechless. Peter and Harry were shocked to their bones. Norman was the Green Goblin, and they never knew about it. Peter marched up to Norman as he felt that he had to pay for his crimes by turning him in to the authorities. Harry immediately jumped between him and Norman. "Peter, I can't let you do this. He's my father," Harry said. Behind them, the Green Goblin smiled as his plan had come into fruition. He decided that the only option he had was to escape, as he was too weak and injured to take on any of them. While they began arguing, the two locked up their hands, and they started fighting about what to do with Norman. He quickly unleashed his sleep gas in the room, and Peter and Harry passed out. When they woke up, Norman was gone, and Peter was furious as he blamed everything on Harry. Peter swung away, leaving Harry behind as he needed to clean his head. Harry was very sorry for his actions, but he could not just let his father get harmed by the authorities instantly. Ever since the incident, Harry had not seen his father. He did not even think that he could bear to see him. Harry had just been trying to communicate with Peter, but it was to no avail. After multiple attempts, Harry decided that he needed to deal with things personally. Harry went to visit Peter, and he was welcomed inside. Harry apologized for his actions and told Peter that he had come to a decision. "I don't think the superhero thing is for me," Harry told Peter. This immediately got Peter's attention. Harry then told Peter that he would help the city in other ways, but the superhero thing was not meant for him. Harry said that the thought had started when he had first confronted the Green Goblin. He stated that Peter was better for the role of a superhero, but he did not have the heart for it. As Peter started to plead with him, he shook his head and said that his mind was already made up. With that, Harry dropped his silver spider suit on Peter's table as he went out. "But we're still brothers, right?" Peter asked Harry. And this made him happy, as it meant that he was forgiven. "Of course, nothing is worse than our friendship," Harry said, as he left Peter's apartment. That night, Harry started working on new equipment, using his DNA as he wanted to create cures for diseases that plagued the city. He was determined to make a difference and to be a hero in his own way. Peter at the exact same time was swinging through the city as he was also determined to get rid of the city of crime. He knew that it would not be the same without Harry, but something told him that he was destined to be Spider-Man. And that is going to be it for part 2 of What If Peter Parker and Harry Osborn Got Bit by the Spider. Now, what did you think of the ending? I know I'm super excited for this particular part. Honestly, I'm very excited for this part too because I've been thinking recently for a while now that I want to also add this to the list for season 2 of the What If series, because I do want to get season 1 out there, but I think this episode itself definitely has the ability to get on that list. I think it was just a different story. It was very unique, and it was very different from the original Spider-Man 2002 storyline, because at the end, I think that it's kind of like Spider-Man No More. Like, it has feelings of Spider-Man 2 mixed in with Spider-Man 1. And I think we're gonna see that going forward in part 3, is you're gonna start seeing, you know, Spider-Man 2 starting to spill over now that we're kind of in that little timeline pocket. And, you know, we're gonna see Dr. Otto Octavius, you know, we're gonna see the symbiote very soon, because I know that I've teased that on Instagram as well as my Twitter, that Green Goblin does in fact get the symbiote. And the fight also, you know, was kind of like Civil War. I kind of made it like that, and I think if I did an animated episode, a lot of the, you know, the scenes would be like that. You know, although I didn't explain the fight, you know, too much, it was a very long fight. Like, the two of them literally beat Goblin to death, almost to the point where he was going to die, so that's why he immediately removed his mask. Because if he didn't, the two of them would have killed him right then and there at the warehouse. And so I think it was, you know, I could have been explained more, but, you know, this is why I really want to save this particular part for an episode, you know, an animated episode, and I'm going to try and get that done. Although I'm continuing to work on season 1, that's like 12 episodes, so we'll have to see. But anyways, how did you enjoy part 2 of this series, this Marvel's What If? We're going to be doing part 3, part 4, and part 5 on this channel, so you can expect those to be out very soon. But that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and do make sure to subscribe, like, share, and turn those notifications on so you and your friends are all up to date with the latest content. Also, make sure to follow my Instagram and check out the Patreon, as it's starting at just $1 a month, and it can really help bring some of these episodes into the, you know, animated format. But thank you again, and I'll see you in the next video.